Right from the jump, BTK offers a respect ban towards best player with the Fanny. Ohio would ban out the Eve, which is reasonable as Yato likes to play utility mages such as Eve, Faramis, Valentina, and pickoffs like Kadita. BTK would respond with a Angela ban, which has been a bit of a mainstay for them on their bench. Regardless of opponents, one could make two separate arguments that they really want to avoid long drawn out engagements with their teamfight oriented drafts, or to avoid the Angeline combo since Shark and Best Player can both utilize these champs effectively. Aside from that, Ohio will target ban the Kaja from Joybodge, which would limit his single target roam options since BTK heavily favors him on Kaja, Grok, Franco, and even a Kufra at times. BTK really does seem to want to avoid sustained champs as they add on the Uranus ban. It's a bit of a food for thought at bare minimum here. Moving along, Ohio would ban out Terizla, where as far as NACT Fall 2023 is concerned, he's a premier pick and very popular in places like MPLID as well. It's a great ban to wrap up first phase with, considering Fwide has been set to play around Uranus, if open, with Terizla and Arlot secondary, as BTK has needed him to drag responses from enemies to his Uranus for their pickoff roam to flourish, or to lock in these solid initiators for what Joybodge can't provide in a 5v5. So for first pick, the only clear option for Fwide is Arlot, which they lock in right away and would proceed to do so 2 more times in this 4-game series, besides one Flex Fred match, which is again another initiator that they dearly needed. And I don't think this is necessarily bad on BTK's part, but I do think it shows how limited they are in choices for having to overcompensate for the choice of position 5 picks, and it creates a very predictable flow of draft with little to no variation. As I say this though, Ohio is gearing up to give BTK a masterclass in flex picks and concealing the draft as they lock in the Fredrin and Kadita. Fredrin was truly a great lock to also take away the possibility of the infinite side clone of CC that Fredrin can feed to Arlot's Demon Gaze passive. These picks essentially doubled as deny picks additionally, as one would assume they are looking at the position 4 and jungle pick, at least for now anyways. It's important to note how this affected BTK's options, as Yato is essentially forced into Faramis since they really only utilize Eve, Faramis, Valentina, and Kadita. And Kadita is being highly contested between both teams as they have both won with all their Kadita appearances, but again, TOB strikes first, and since we are facing a assumed position for Kadita, Faramis is an ideal slot to counteract the burst potential, whereas opposed to Valentina doesn't gain much value so far in the draft. Additionally, Mobazane, who has showcased a limited hero pool, only truly using Fredrin, Boxia, Alpha, and Martis so far during the season. I'm actually curious as to why he hasn't attempted a Paquito pick so far, but that aside, he goes in for the familiar Boxia pick. I think maybe it was in the back of their mind that a Fred flex to EXP was possible, as they did later ban out additional junglers, and Boxia would be good jungle to keep up with rotation speed of the remaining choices, and furthermore match the gank potential via setups as opposed to damage. Ohio would proceed to secure their gold laner Beatrix, which definitely has the AoE damage to handle a Cult Altar composition courtesy of Nibiru and Bennett. And they currently account for half the wins Beatrix has out of her 9 appearances so far. With that, they would go on to ban 1-1 and Grok heading into the second phase. The 1-1 was definitely needed to avoid the Franco plus Juan combo of BTK, as they like to make it easy to unlock the crossbow attack with their preferred roamers, but also to not have to deal with Juan paired up with Faramis, which would have been an immense task to deal with by itself that BTK surely would have capitalized on. Ohio opens up the second phase of picks with the unmasking of Fred EXP by slotting best players Lancelot, who at this point would only really have to worry about the Franco pick from BTK and could possibly take advantage of the usual tight-knit formation of a Faramis comp for a Soul Cutter passive via the puncture. BTK would slot the predictable option of Franco for Joybodge and neatly slotted it with the Leslie in the hands of ISO. This though is where Ohio would finally reveal the smoking gun. The Kadita flex to position 5 for the position 4, which happens to be one of Hoon's favorite mid laners, the Valentina, who can now utilize the Cult Altar, the Bloody Hunt, or the Final Slash, all huge ultimates that could be benefited from greatly for the side of TOB. BTK had potentially succumbed to the trap of Ohio, failing to realize how dynamic their drafting truly was and how it matched their stale draft patterns so far this regular season. To BTK's credit, they went on to have a formidable match, and one could argue the execution of the draft was in their favor rather than how it fared on paper. but ultimately they ended up taking the loss and Ohio would strike first in this short-lived 4-game series. Now to wrap everything up, how did you guys feel about the drafts? Any points you have that you feel I may have overlooked? If so, please let me know in the comments and let's discuss. And while you're at it, if you like this content, make sure to like and check back soon, as I'll be posting on my community tab and other social medias to gather suggestions for the next draft analysis. And with that, my fellow nerds, make sure you do your due diligence, do your homework, and most importantly, do your research. It's been real with your boy, Quirky, signing off.